this morning I want to talk about a couple of stories that are driving the news agenda in a different way. And the first is the appearance yesterday before a Common Select Committee of Alan Bates, the postmaster who organised resistance from all those who were wrongly accused of fraud in the Post Office Horizon scandal, and whose role was immortalised in the ITV drama Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Now, Sophie, can you take us through this a bit? What did he say when he was up at the Select Committee?
So we all saw the awful ITV drama Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, which has kind of ignited
drama, Sophie.
Yeah.
Not the awful drama. The drama about something awful, but was a very good drama.
Yes, it was a very good drama. But highlighting the awful true story of the Post Office Horizon IT scandal, in which hundreds of postmasters were wrongly accused of stealing money from their post offices, where actually it was this Fujitsu Horizon system that had bugs and defects. And yes, compensation for the victims of the scandal is still ongoing. There have been delays and delays and delays. As we had Alan Bates, the lead campaigner in Parliament yesterday, along with some bosses from the Post Office, the chief executive who's in place now, and also the former chairman of the Post Office. And Alan Bates was just, he wasn't praising of the Post Office nor the government in the compensation scheme. He basically was just saying that we need to get on with it. We need to get on with this compensation scheme. There's been a lot of distractions. He's been leading this campaign for like some 20 years, two decades. And he basically said, the Post Office, it may as well be sold off to Amazon for £1. It's a dead duck. Sort of good riddance to the Post Office, because for everything that's been done, there needs to be some sort of fundamental change where it's taken and it goes into different hands, it's sold off, just so actually we can get this compensation in people's pockets. People have died without compensation. This is he was really just urging, get on with it and get it sorted.
Yeah, so it was quite sort of an astonishing appearance, really, in a lot of ways. Now, select committees, for those who don't know, this is sort of the part of the House of Commons or the Lords as well, but in the Commons, they're sort of the committees that look regularly at the work of a particular department, and a lot of their staff's quite boring and they don't get a lot of attention, but they do like, therefore, to call in someone who is in the news at the moment or is a celebrity who's got a view about something, because sprinkles a bit of stardust on otherwise dull proceedings, gets journalists like us to actually go along and actually sort of pay some attention to what's going on. So it sounds like Mr. Bates was pretty dramatic for them, selling the Post Office to Amazon and so on, paying up now, all the rest of it. But they also called a chap called Henry Staunton, who's pictured on the left there. For those who are watching, you can see, who used to be the former head of the Post Office and who hit the headlines last week, I think it was, when he said that he was ordered to slow down the compensation until after the next election. Now, the government has quibbled about that. The civil servant he accused of saying it says, no, I didn't. He's produced a note of the conversation at the time where it looks like maybe it did. What did he say exactly?
Yeah, so this is Henry Staunton, former Post Office chairman, and he was dismissed by Kemi Badenoch, the business secretary. And then he did this sort of explosive article interview with the Sunday Times, in which he made the allegations that you just referred to about him saying that he was ordered to slow down compensation payments, essentially so the government could limp into the next general election. There was this huge row, and Kemi Badenoch hit out on Twitter about this. She basically said that these claims were false. And yesterday, Henry Staunton, we didn't know if he was going to roll back at all, if actually, he's put too much out there. But no, he doubled down on his claims. He said that he had been part of a smear campaign, that, his name had been tarnished. And he it's part of what Kemi Badenoch hit back has said was that she had dismissed him because there was also an investigation into his behaviour that was ongoing. He provided some further evidence of this, and he basically said that these allegations were not to do with him as such, but they were part of a report that was to do with Nick Reed, who's the current chief executive of.
That's it. He was accused of bullying, wasn't he? And that's what Kemi Badenoch said at the dispatch box. And then he said yesterday that actually there was an 80-page report about his successor in which the allegations about him were one single paragraph within that 80-page report. So,
which he denies as well. It's that he made a politically incorrect comment that was included in the report. He denies this. Obviously, the investigation is ongoing. But yeah, he was very defensive in his stance yesterday against the government and the post office.
It seems astonishing, doesn't it, that what we've got is the situation where, for anyone who saw that drama, innocent human beings being sucked into a scandal and accusations of wrongdoing as a result of a faulty computer system, which they had no way of unpicking or defending themselves from. They were demonstrably and admittedly harassed, prosecuted, persecuted by an arm of the British state, part of the government, and where some were jailed, wrongly convicted, pressured into signing false confessions. And then we all know, and it is just a proven fact, that the vast majority of them were innocent. The Prime Minister has said he will exonerate them all with a bit of legislation. But yet here we are with Kemi Badenoch, Henry Staunton, and others, and it would appear perhaps parts of the civil service and internally the select committee as well to some extent, and they're all playing politics with it. So you've got this situation where you have human beings who are sucked into something awful that needs to be pulled out of it, but yet it seems to be something where the current government thinks that this is something they can use to punish someone with, or it's something they're doing wrong, so someone's punishing them with it, and they're playing politics all the time, and it's like a game. And I can't see any way that anyone comes out of this looking any better, really. I kind of share Alan Bates's frustration here. It's appalling, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not looking too good at the moment. And they also haven't been looking good for a really long time. And I think we saw the power of what a drama can do with getting the public behind the campaigners in this. Because as mentioned before, this has been going on for decades. And we saw the huge petition that came out for Paula Venables, who's overseeing the post office during the time that that postmasters were going through this, calling for her to have her CBE stripped, and she's now handed that back. We've seen the kind of pressure that the public can put on. But obviously this is, authorities have known about this for a really long time now, the post office and the government. And why haven't they acted during that time? This is a huge scandal, and you just think, well, they should be acting. It shouldn't take the public or an ITV drama to get change here. And as we're seeing, even with that, it's still being very slow. Lawyers were saying yesterday that it could be taking up to 2 years for people to still be getting their compensation. These are people's lives that we're talking about. And, they've been hoping for this to be over for so long. And, you saw that in the drama. This is 10 years of my life, 20 years of my life. We don't need that to go up anymore.
No, it's just astonishing. Mike says the MPs have found themselves £31 million for their own security protection, quite rightly, within days. If Badenoch wanted this settled, she could do it immediately. The kind of money that has been suggested for the postmasters has already been ring-fenced to the Treasury. It's not like spending it is going to cost anybody anything really at this point, because it's already been put in the piggy bank. It just needs to be opened. The fact is that having that £1 billion in the Treasury piggy bank means you can offset it against other things, right? And it's much better at a budget if you've got an extra billion that you're setting off against something else, all right? It makes a difference to the sums that you're doing. I mean, what do you think, everybody? Do you think this is something where perhaps politics is playing too much of a role? Do you think it's something where politics, it has to absolutely play a role, because that's when the public react to something and the politicians are supposed to react to the public's view and make a change? What would you want to see happen with the postmasters? I mean, Sophie, we did have a promise from the Prime Minister that he was going to pass legislation to exonerate everyone who is convicted. Where are we on that?
So we had an update earlier this week in the Commons on that, which essentially was that legislation will be introduced as soon as possible next month, with the hope that it can be passed through and pushed through by July. There are delays, often parliamentary procedures. Legislation has to come under scrutiny. We're hoping that everything will get pushed through by July, as promised. But yeah, we will have to see, and we will all be watching with a keen eye on that.
And it also means, of course, not having a general election called in the meantime, which would dissolve Parliament and stop everything in its tracks.
Indeed.
So we'll have to sort of see how things pan out there. I suspect we won't get as far enough along the road as we should do before Rishi has to do that.